Hey everybody, hope you're doing great today. A while back I promised that I was going to stop and give you a tutorial on the Matterport camera. And this is that tutorial I promised. Let's roll that intro.
She make me feel alive, make me feel alive. She make me feel alright. She makes me, she make me feel alive, make me feel alive. Till you come back home, until you come back home, until you come back home, till you come back
Hey everybody, as promised we're going to talk about Matterport and how to use it. We're going to talk about the how-to. We'll look a little bit on what happens when we process it and import it. We will also look at a few other things in the mix, but right now what I want to talk to you about is equipment, and I want to talk to you about setup. First of all, I understand that you probably all have a tripod. This tripod has a flat head, pan head is what they call it. And what you got to do is you have to have a tripod that has this. Fun fact, if it says Manfrotto on it, it's usually a much better deal. This is the Manfrotto 290 XTM, made in Italy, and it works like a champ. It's the ones that are carbon fiber are not as rigid, and because this camera is pretty darn heavy, it'll give you an unstable reading and won't get as good a results if you don't use a good camera. This gets a little old because it's kind of heavy. It does fit in luggage, which I like. It just adds a lot of weight to the luggage, and but it's a rock solid performer, and it is about a 3-second launcher. You know, all we do with this is pop these latches loose, obviously, send it down, hook them all three back up, and we are locked and loaded. Just that easy. So let me pull it back just a little bit. Okay, so now that we've got that, we've also gone over this DAC 60. Now there's a couple of different ones of these that you can use. You see what it does is as you turn it, it goes in tighter. This is really important, and also understand that this costs about, I think, $34, and this thing will eventually break. I know that seems strange to hear, but it will eventually break. A lot of times we'll leave them on the camera or on the tripod. In this case, I'm just going to screw it on right there on the tripod. Just needs to be snug. If you over tighten it, you'll have a hard time getting it off, but it needs to be good and snug, and you'll be able to figure that out. Leave it in an open position, and then we get the Matterport camera. We're going to take the Matterport camera, we're going to slide it in here like this. And tighten it up. So now you've got the camera in good shape. Make sure you tighten down this piece. This is the piece that would actually let it raise up. On occasion we do this, but not very often. This is about the height you want to run it. Okay, so when you're working with this, you can always check the battery by holding your hand down right here. In this case, the battery is got 5 hours and 30 minutes on it. This battery will usually go close to 8 hours. It's got a series of batteries in here. It does a great job. It takes a while to charge it, so you need to leave it probably overnight whenever you've depleted it, but it does a really good job of managing the batteries, and we can use these things for years and never have to replace the batteries. Could not say nicer things about the build from the guys over at Matterport. They create a great product and good support to boot. All you do is hit it like that to start it up, and it's going to start looking it's going to start looking for a wireless network. So let me move this back just a little bit here. And I'm going to go here on my iPad. I'm going to look at the available networks. I see the Matterport right there. It's going to connect to that unsecured network. It's got a connection. Now it's going to tell me right here that it's warming up. So now I'm going to go over to this Matterport app, and I'm going to add a new job. Now, for the sake of what we're doing here, I'm not going to put everything in here. I'm just going to do test 1, 2, 3, 4. And just so you can do this, but basically you can put all the addressing here, so later if you needed to search for it, you would have it. All right, so now I've saved that and I've got it set up. So now, as you can see, I'm ready to run the camera. Now, let's talk about what you can and can't do when you're running this camera. It also says it's ready to capture. Let's talk about, first of all, what things are in the way and how things move. You don't want to have a situation where you have a bunch of movement of whatever is in the house or whatever is in the structure when you're doing this. So let's say that you were in this structure and a mitigation company was here and they were moving equipment around. Let's say that a contents handling company happened to be here and they were moving something around. Say we had insureds here and they were moving around, engineers who were moving around, insurance professionals, doesn't matter. Those people moving around it, first of all, they're going to be attracted to this crazy device. And number two, it's going to jack you up when you do it. Basically, this camera sees for about 15 feet. So if you've got movement within 15 feet, then you're going to have an issue. Now, the other thing you need to understand is that it stitches. So it would you can see this here. It sees this archway back here, okay? So when it sees this archway, everything it does here, it stitches around that archway because it picked it up. So anything that needs to be open needs to be open. So let me just run back here and I'll show you. We would, if I wanted to make sure that this was available, the HVAC closet was available, I would just go ahead and open it up at this point because I need to have it opened up, because if I do it in the middle of this, it's going to create one of those moves that's going to throw it off and it's not going to match. Okay? Now, I use the big iPad. I use this because I use this absolutely godsend of a keyboard, which you can see I use pretty severely, and I'd rather type on this than just about anything. This thing amounts to a desktop for me. I suggest, if you're going to do this, get the slightly smaller version. You can get a 360 case on it that you can also hang around your neck. And it's really nice when you're moving the camera not to need to hold on to the iPad. Now, every time this spins, it's going to spin at about 14 seconds. Now, if you were in a low light situation, it would take a little bit longer, okay? But for the most part, this is going to be how it works. So basically what I would do is I'm gonna hit this to capture it, and it's not gonna work really well because I'm gonna stand here and if we kept doing this, I would have to keep standing here. But this is what it's gonna do as it collects the data. And I'm gonna hold still for a second so that it will not get freaked out that I'm moving. All right, hurry up. So as we do this, remember that the camera is seeing like this and like this. It's seeing everything top to bottom, okay? So it's creating this great slice. You might notice that there's that tells me it got it. And here we go, transferring. Says it's aligning, and boom, there's the picture. I can actually see, you can actually see what the camera actually saw. So you can check it See me standing there? So you can check it against as to what it's seeing, so you know that you get a complete scan. Now, we would continue to do this, and I'm gonna show you on another one that we did. You would continue to do this, and you see how all of these dots, these are everywhere we drop the camera. Now, if you do this in a way that is, how would I say this best? If you do it in a way that's, we call it a tight scan. Well, really, it's a well-spaced scan. If you were to say make a hop every 8 or 10 feet, depending on if it had anything you need to see around, if you were making those kind of hops in every direction, you're going to end up with an absolutely positively beautiful scan that you're going to be able to lay it outside. You're going to be able to look on the top of it. You're going to be able to walk to any place in that property that you want. And the biggest thing you want to remember is this happens to be a job that I walked personally for a contractor that is a good friend. And you know, this particular location had another loss, and we were able to freeze it in time for this loss so that we could see some relative understanding of what was going on later. But more than anything, because the losses overlapped, we could show the point in time of this particular loss and not have an insurance company, for example, say, well, I'm not sure which one that was from, and there were 2 occurrences here. So for whatever reason, it is it just freezes a moment in time. And I think if there's just one thing in the whole world that this is amazing for, is it's amazing because, well, it increases quality, but it gives us total recall to freeze that moment in time and go back and look at it. It doesn't matter if there's a lawsuit or somebody needs to go back in history for whatever reason. It just is there to really make a difference. Now, a couple of little things that I want to tell you, just so you know how this works, is first of all, when you're going to move this, do this with it to move it. Okay? If you will be prone when you have this device. Okay? You will be prone to do this with it. And by holding it out like this, there's a spot right in the middle of your back that will hurt like holy hell, because it's not natural for you to hold something like that while it's moving. It just doesn't work right, okay? Now, you can make a decision when you do this. Now, every single one of us go to a loss at some point where the loss doesn't include everything, but we still want to sketch the whole structure. It might be because we have to do general clean. It might be because we have contents to move. It might be for any reason, but we usually sketch the whole structure. And of course we do that when we use the Matterport camera. What you want to know is there's 2 different ways to scan. One is the way I was telling you, the way I showed you, where it's a little bit spin it every 8 feet, every 10 feet. In bigger structures, every 15 feet, basically if it's wide open. But I mean, you've got to see on both sides of things. But what you can do when you do not have to get everything because a particular area you just need to be able to sketch it, just do the floor plan, is you can take this and take one picture inside the door, outside the door, and one picture inside the door. And as long as that camera can see all 4 corners of that room, then it will in fact dimensionalize that where we can do the measurements with the rest of the structure. So it's a way to grab those measurements without doing as deep a scan or tight a scan. The other thing that I will remind you, and I will need to show this to you in a different way, but mirrors and big windows will often give you grief. There is simply a way inside the program. Let me see if I can show you real quick. Where I can mark features. And when I mark features, I can go in and call out a window or a mirror or trim an area, like for this overlap. So that allows me to keep scanning even though the camera gets really freaked out over big mirrors. Occasionally you're going to a place that has lots and lots of windows or lots and lots of mirrors, and you'll have to do this in order to make the camera work appropriately. The last thing I just remind you of is that you're going to be able to go back and you're going to be able to grab images from this device after it uploads, processes, and then comes down. You're also going to be able to grab a floor plan of this and actually pull it into Xactimate if you want. That's a little bit more difficult. I'm not going to teach you how to do that today. I may ask one of my staff members to do that sometime soon. I mean, I'm quite proficient in Xactimate, but I think some of my other people would be better to show you that. Now, let's go look at some things on the computer and look at some designs to actually see how this works. All right, let me show you a little bit about Matterport. We got lots of different ones to go here. I'm going to go into just one here, and I'm going to keep you on residential for now because it'll be easier to conceptualize exactly what we're doing when we do it from here. We're gonna come in here, and our normal view of this is we're going to go right in. It's going to load. When it loads, it's going to show me the dollhouse and then immediately fly me in. Let's go back and look at the dollhouse. This allows us to spin the structure. See it from many perspectives. When you have two-story structure, it's usually a pretty nice thing. Obviously, you can see that there's some fire damage here. But this allows us, if we pull the floor plan, to actually see the floor plan in very good detail. It'll be this that we ultimately could bring into Xactimate or print out into any other program for plans. Now, let's just say we're going to look around this building and we notice that that looks a little charred maybe. Let's go look and see what's going on in here. And we can just look all we want. Now, you will note that there are these zeros on the ground, and these zeros on the ground are everywhere the camera was. Notice there's one right in the doorway and there's one in the doorway. There's one outside the doorway. It's the way you lead it through, because remember, you're always attaching all of these. When it gets here, it's going to need to see back everything that it sees way back here. And you can just use this and you can navigate through whatever you want. You can even pull it up close to you like that to get a better look. Now, we're going to go to the workshop. And as the workshop loads here, this is where I think some real magic takes place, because it's going to let you do a couple of different things. It's going to let you take pictures so that you didn't have to take them on site. So instead of taking every picture, you're taking the right picture. At that, you're going to do a really nice picture at that. You're going to always notice when you hit this workshop, it always takes a minute to get it loaded because it is loading some stuff on the back end. So the first thing I'm going to show you is we're going to go up here and we're going to click Snapshot. And now this lets us go through the building and subtract. Like, we can back up here and we can click this and it takes that shot. We can go over here. We can take that shot. We can look right here and say we wanted to pull in a little closer to that. We can pull a little closer. Whoops, that was a little closer than I wanted. But you get the point. We have great control over how and what we take pictures. You see right here where it has this hazy part here? That's where it's not connected, or it's connected, but it's not used to looking up like that. So you'll make sure when you take pictures that you take them on an angle that you don't get that. Like, it's way up here, so you're still be able to get about 30 degrees looking up when you're doing it. And that's one of the things. Now we go back out of here and we can go into measure. Now, perhaps measure is the single greatest thing that I love about this system. Now, you can see that my staff, when they did this estimate, you can see that they went and they pulled the measurement right here of the center of this room, the width of these doors, all various trim, even the width of the fireplace. You can go through, we can walk through this entire structure and we can measure anything that we want to measure. It's just that quick. So let me escape out of that. So then we can, because like say you had to do the cabinets, you could come back and actually measure these cabinets. Say you needed to know about the refrigerator, you could go back and measure the refrigerator. And basically what this does is it takes away the human part that is the frailty part of this business. Because we're always going to screw this up. If you're always going to forget something. This is where we went in and we actually labeled all the rooms. And so when we went into our highlight reel, it covered where the pictures were being taken when we pulled those pictures. When we did this highlight reel, and we could either do a walkthrough or a slideshow, and so this is what happens when we go. That's basically when we leave the workshop. I'll show you how it passes through here. You can, in other words, you could feature the damage by going to each place and basically set that up for the carrier or whoever. Claims manager, I don't care who it is, to see, jury, whoever it was, just to see what's what. You also can do some what's called matter tagging, which is you can put some rich media in here. I wouldn't suggest you even play with that anytime soon. I think if you do the snapshot, the highlight reel, the measurements, and the labels, you are rocking good. So let's go back out of the workshop real quick. If I can figure out how to do that, I don't normally do this. Okay, I'm going to publish the changes, and now I'm going to back out of that, go back in. So let me let it load. We can also look, well, it looks like this one didn't have a actual walkthrough created on it, but I think you can see all the pictures here. It also creates some short videos of the loss as well. Look, I'm not beating up on my guys at Matterport, okay? I'm not. Just for us in this side of the game, what we do, I don't find this to be particularly necessary to buy that. But in a nutshell, this completely changes the game, and it really is that simple. Last thing is, we would grab we would put a measurement of, say 10 feet or whatever here, and then we would be able to take this picture and bring it into Xactimate and basically load it as an underlayment. So let's talk a little bit about the cost, and let's talk a little bit about the time associated with doing this work. So I've tried to show you quite a few things about the Matterport. Now, let me tell you a few things about time and hassle here, okay? If you're used to walking in a building, pulling out your laser measure, drawing it up, and getting going, taking a few pictures with your iPhone or your Android or whatever, and rock it on, then I get it. This is not for you, because if that's what you want to do, if you want to do it like they did it in 1982, then go ahead. I mean, that's what the majority of everybody else does it that way. But conversely, if you want to run this camera and write a scope while you're walking around with this camera, hit a button to upload, and by the time you get back to the office, it's processed, and then you can go and tighten your notes up and look through it, then you're going to create a better scope. I promise you, you'll create a better scope. Generally speaking, when we inspect a property, and we use this technology, because we use a bunch of very experienced estimators on the backside of this, then what actually happens is boom, boom, boom. They're going to find about 20% more legitimate scope items than the person who just runs through it. Because once again, it's human frailty. It happens. I get it. I can't tell you the number of structures I've walked into and just did boot to the head. I just forgot something and had to go back. And it could be the most mundane detail, and there's no way to get it. So that right there, but understand when I tell you this, chances are good this will take you a little more time. Like if you're used to spending an hour on that little residential project, this might take you an hour and a half. It requires you to do more prep. You've got to be charged up and make sure you have everything with you. You're going to forget your tripod. Let me say that again. You're going to forget your tripod. One more time. You're going to forget your tripod. Connect your tripod to whatever you use to carry this camera. Connect it. Because if you don't, once again, you're going to forget your tripod. Why do I say that? It happens. This is what I carry the Matterport in, and this is the gaff tape connected to this right now, but normally that's where the tripod is whenever I do carry one of these. This happens to be doubling as a camera bag right now with carrying some of our other video equipment when I've got to put it in a bag, and so it's got the gaff tape. I never explained gaff tape to you, but we'll talk about that sometime. It's like the big brother to painter's tape, and it's just so much cooler. So when you're good at this, you're going to do about 1,500 square feet an hour, provided it's not too cut up, and provided there are not people there. You're going to do about 1,000 square feet an hour when you start off. I'm going to say this the nicest way I can. If you had somebody junior on your staff that was going out and assessing a loss, and you were scared to death they weren't going to get the whole detail, this works. I'm not telling you to send monkeys out to your job sites. I didn't say that. Okay? I didn't say do that to go assess a loss. What I am saying, however, that if you have a colleague or an employee or somebody who is not boned up to the level that you are or someone else in your staff is, I literally have like 7 people that look over all of these every day and just find additional scope items. Just buff them out because it works. We have clients all over the country that do this, all over the continent to do this. And, you know, we adopted the Matterport very early in the process. I think we were one of the first to do it on property claims. And we've just, you know, Matterport didn't pay me to do this, okay? They don't sponsor me in any way, shape, or form. They just have a rock solid product. At WriteLoss, we spend a ton of money, by most perspectives, on research and development, on finding new ways to use technology and tools and skills to better assess a loss. We test things all the time. We spend just a boatload of money on this, and what we found is that this is probably the most seminal thing we could do to change the outcome for everybody in the process. We have these fly in from Miami and Pennsylvania and New York and California every day because we have people that have adopted this and start sending us things, and we do better jobs when we get these done. Now, I didn't go over changing floors on this, and it's not a big deal, but I'll probably do a primer on that at some point too, on transitioning between floors and a few other technical items that would bore the masses. But when we do this on like really big structures, we usually have to break it into multiple scans, but usually to some degree that's true. We've done some extremely large structures without doing so, but it depends on a lot of different factors. I'm just happy I could show this to you. Happy I could be here today, because I am definitely going tomorrow. Gonna drop my senior daughter at college for the last time, and go visit my son, who is in his last semester in college. So we're going to hit 2 colleges same day, with a move-in on one of them. And then I'm off to the races to bounce around the country a little bit for some very important business, from losses to meetings to depositions and stuff like that. I'm also hopefully going to be able to bring you, I'm going to actually interview a couple of people here coming up real soon. I think you're going to like one group I'm planning on talking to. It's a client of ours that's, they're public adjusters and consultants, and just some of the best that I know. And I just want to talk claims with them, and I think talk velocity with them. I think we're not talking enough about the speed to getting it done. And obviously that's what my life kind of surrounds. But I know this one was long. I appreciate you being here, and I hope this was helpful to you. Comment. I love your comments. Get in touch however you like. Email, social media, whatever. You can find me on Facebook. You can find me on LinkedIn very, very easily. And subscribe and share this if it's helpful to you. Thanks again to our friends over at Matterport for not only being a excellent product producer, but also an excellent service provider. They're absolutely rock solid, and I will once again put Tomer's name and email address in the description here, because he is the man you should talk to if you want to talk about getting these cameras and getting them under some arrangements that might work really well for you. Just a really rock solid guy, just like everybody that works there. So have a great day. Have a great rest of your weekend, and let's get off to the next large loss.